Lake Weir Avenue. Daily till 4:30, Saturdays till 3. The same blooming location since 1952.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Thank you for tuning in. Our next guest is a rather prolific author, and I was looking at the statistics regarding her new book, the one we're going to talk about, titled "The Great Believers." It's a novel, and it's just, I think it's not even been out a week, and the numbers are really good. I think I saw it at number 7 on Kindle. Let me see here. This is on. Number 7 in Kindle under the literary fiction category, which there are hundreds of thousands of books in that category. So to be number 7 is pretty awesome, especially only a week after the book was released. The story has to do with AIDS and about art and how, especially in the 80s, how we were all seeing friends and people we cared about, even if they were in celebrity, like oh gosh, who was the guy from Queen again? And Freddie Mercury.
Freddie Mercury.
Yeah, I mean, they were dropping so common. It was so common to hear stories like that. Rebecca Makkai is a contributor to the Best American Short Stories, also, as well as Harper's, Tin House, Plowshares, and she's got a whole load of books to her name. Rebecca, good morning, Rebecca. It's an honor to have you on our show.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
And congratulations. Is it always exciting for you when a book does so well, like right out of the gate?
Yeah. Well, okay. So this is my 4th book, which I guess that's a good number, but it's not. I don't have hundreds or anything, and this really hasn't happened before. So this is actually incredibly exciting. Yeah.
Is this based on a true story in any way?
Well, broadly, in that I did a ton of research on the AIDS epidemic in Chicago and how it's affected that specific community. I interviewed a lot of people about their own experiences. I did a lot of reading gay weeklies from the 80s. But my characters and what happens to them, those are fictional.
It also covers survivor's guilt.
Yeah, very much. Right. So I'm writing, every other chapter, and the longer chapters are set in the 80s, but then I have these shorter chapters in between set in 2015 Paris, where there's a woman who lost her brother and a lot of her close friends back then. And I was really interested in that span of time, those 30 years. Partly that came up in my interviews with people. They're talking about the survivor's guilt, or in some cases, men who'd been handed a death sentence in the mid-'80s who got ready to die, and they're still here. That gap became really interesting to me and was something that I felt was worth exploring.
Oh, wow. Tell me about the title. What does the title imply, The Great Believers?
Yeah, so it's from an F. Scott Fitzgerald quote, actually, that I use as the epigraph to the novel. And he's talking really about the lost generation, which is something that it also comes up in the novel. There's an old woman who's talking about her time in the art world in Paris around World War I. But he's talking about sort of the optimism of this generation before they'd been decimated by World War I and by influenza, actually, too, and the way that they regrouped after the war and tried to move on, the survivors of all that. The parallels between Paris back at that time and a city like Chicago, both of them are meccas for young people. Paris is a mecca for artists. Chicago would be this, safe haven in some ways for the LGBTQ community. They get there, and then war of various kinds, literal war, the war of AIDS, rolls through. And how do you pick yourself back up afterwards?
You also focus on the way AIDS was handled, not just by the media, but also by the different healthcare institutions.
Yeah, which, there's a lot that we should be learning from that time, because this stuff is going to happen again and again with the way marginalized groups are denied health care. But that, I already knew a lot of that stuff going in, but the details of my research were really shocking to me. And I was writing not only about these characters' insurance struggles and their health struggles, but also about the actions they took to protest what was unfair, writing a lot about this particular demonstration that ACT UP, the AIDS organization, did in Chicago in 1990, marching against the American Medical Association and some insurance agencies that were really being ridiculously unfair. AZT, that very important drug, when it was introduced in the late 80s, right, was at the time the most expensive medication ever released for no reason.
Tell us about your book tour. Are you in Minneapolis right now?
I think so. Yeah, no, I'm in Minneapolis. It's been a long few days. So I started out last Tuesday. It's been just about a week now, and it's been basically a city a day. It's really fun. You get to see a lot of people a lot of new people who are excited about your work, and then you get to sit on an airplane every morning. That's not the best part.
You talk about the children that were affected when their parents died of AIDS and how they were outcast because people were afraid to be around them.
That's not really something I deal with much in the book, but they're certainly it's at the periphery of what my characters are thinking about. My characters are really young, urban, professional gay men. And they, at the same time, though, their politics are what we would now call intersectional. They're very concerned about, for instance, in this ACT UP demonstration, helping protest the fact that Cook County Hospital, the place where you'd go if you didn't have insurance in Chicago, had no AIDS beds for women in 1990, which was shocking. So they're really. I'm dealing with, different characters have different reactions, but my main character, this guy, Yale Tishman, his awakening in the book is partly political and partly about thinking about people outside his own friend group and the way a disease like this might affect them as well.
It is always a delicate balance, I think, when a novelist writes a story that also has a political statement so that it doesn't sound preachy in any way. Was that, and you pulled it off very well, and I'm basing this on the comments that people have left on Amazon, which, by the way, 5 stars across the board, pretty good. So is that a hard thing for you? Do you have to keep going back and trying to figure out if you've maybe gone across the line into the preachy world?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I think one thing that helps a lot is that my characters disagree with each other about so much stuff. If they all were lined up, saying the same thing, I think you could come away feeling like, yeah, and that's the author's opinion too, and that's the message she's trying to hit us over the head with. Right. But my characters vehemently disagree with each other about many things. For instance, the book starts in 1985, which was the year the test came out for what we now call HIV. Some of them went and got it, and this is based on real life. Some people were into it. Some people felt like, why would you ever do that to yourself when there's no medication and when you could be signing yourself up for a quarantine list if the government co-opts these results? So, they are at odds with each other, which I think helped me not to come out with just my own opinion about stuff.
And this is very timely, very appropriate, because we just received an email from the Marion County, the county that we live in, the health department stating that they are setting up the special AIDS Awareness Day, that if anybody wants to be checked, they go down to the health department and they'll do that test.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, this is the thing. I'm writing about certainly what we think of as the AIDS era in America. The crust of it was the late 80s. 1992 was the year that the most people died. But there are still 1.1 million Americans living with HIV. And worldwide, there are still 1 million people dying of AIDS every year, which is a statistic that I think shocks a lot of people. A lot of this is in Africa. We aren't as aware. We should be. Yeah. But there's still so much work to be done, so many lessons that need to be learned for the next time something like this happens. But also, we can't forget that it's still happening.
The book is doing really well. I have a copy of The Great Believers by Rebecca Makkai. Am I saying your last name correct, Rebecca?
Yeah. That's the American version, which is what we go with.
Okay. So for the listeners, if you would like the book that was sent to me, it's a hardcover, beautiful book. Call me and you can have the one I have. The rest of us do have to go buy it. I found it on Amazon. Do you have a website dedicated to yourself or the book?
I absolutely do. Yes. So it's RebeccaMakkai.com. It's just my name, or you can. My name's hard to spell, so you can also just search for The Great Believers, and you'll find it pretty fast.
Okay, excellent. And have fun on the tour. Thank you for taking time to talk to us here in Ocala, Florida.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rebecca. We will be right back.
Insurance needs got you worried? Clifford Insurance has you covered with over 25 premium carriers. Family owned and operated with 200 years plus of combined experience. Call them today, 352-245-5455. Clifford Insurance has the expertise you and your family deserves.
Give me, Alicia Clifford, a call today for a free quote at 352-245-5455.
Hey Adam, those burgers gonna be done before summer's over?
Maybe. Why? You got big plans for the summer?
Not really. Just the usual, kids hanging around the house. How about you?
Actually, I'm having Joshua get his pilot's license this summer.
What? Is he old enough? Can you really do that in just the summer?
Yeah, you can get your pilot's license at 17, and the summer is plenty of time. Plus, this could be the start to his career as an airline pilot.
That is a great idea. I bet Tyler would love that. Actually, I would too.
You guys should do it.
I don't have time for that. Some of us have to work for a living, you know?
Not you, no. Seriously, they work around your schedule.
Really? That's cool. Where are you going?
Ocala Aviation, at the airport off 60th.
How'd you hear about it?
I heard about it on the radio, then I stopped in. I've got a card if you want the number.
Yeah, hold on. Let me get my phone.
Hurry up, the burgers are burning.
Okay, I'm ready. Go ahead.
861-7484.
Hold on, I missed a number.
Such a slacker. Here it is again. 861-7484.
Excellent. I'm going to call them now.
How about we eat before you start your new adventure?
That's probably a good idea.
You think?